Not yet.
It says we are live. 2 seconds and 3 seconds. Jolly good. Well, Happy New Year.
Oh, yeah. Happy New Year, folks.
Absolutely.
We hope. We trust.
We trust everybody
Yeah.
made it through the holidays and didn't break the elastic in your knickers.
Oh, you speak for yourself. That's another
And
story.
this is the last week since the decorations come down at midnight. It's the last week I can say, who are you calling a ho, ho, ho? Fortunately, that works backwards in the mirror. So
Yeah.
that's a good thing. Hi, kids. So today we're super excited to have a returning guest by popular demand from the fan club. And we'll tell you all about why it's so timely in a few minutes. Our good friend Shannon MacDonald. She's an internationally recognized contemporary artist, best known for her evocative work inspired by the Beatles and the cultural revolution they ignited. Working primarily in painting and mixed media and airbrushing, she captures not just the likenesses of the Fab Four, but the emotion, movement, and mythology that surrounds their music and legacy. Her art is distinguished by its expressive brushwork, rich color palettes, and an almost cinematic sense of atmosphere blending portraiture with nostalgia, symbolism, and modern pop sensibility. Rather than literal depictions, her pieces often explore the spirit of the Beatles, youth, innovation, rebellion, and timeless creativity. These Beatle-themed works have been exhibited internationally and are held in private collections around the world, appealing to both devoted fans and serious art collectors alike. Her ability to translate sound into visual emotion has earned her a reputation as one of the most compelling artists working within Beatles-inspired art genre today. Beyond the Beatles, Shannon's broader body of work reflects a deep interest in music and pop culture, cultural icons, and moments that shaped modern history. Always approached with sensitivity, imagination, and a distinctly contemporary voice. She continues to create and exhibit new work, celebrating the enduring influence of the Beatles, whilst contributing her own chapter to their ever-evolving artistic legacy. With a new book out and a new movie debuting with Liverpool West Productions coming very soon, she is one busy lady, and she's carved out time for us today. Welcome, Shannon.
Hello, Shannon.
Hello, ladies. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Absolutely. Happy.
I just listening to your little speech about me, and I was like, who are they talking about?
Do I know this girl? Yeah.
That was wonderful. Thank you. I don't know how you got it out, Ruth. You did it. A fantastic job. Not one stutter. It was amazing.
Thank you very much indeed. Simon Weitzman is on from Liverpool West Productions.
Oh, we love Simon.
Yeah, we do. And hi, Paul. Hi, everybody. So tell us about where you're heading off to in a couple of weeks and what that's all about, and how it came to be with partnering with Bill Heckel, one of the owners of the cabin.
Well, this goes back to, I guess, 1994 is when I met Bill. And it just happened to be one of those shows where he was directly across from me. I didn't know him from Adam. And it was at a Charles Rosenet show. And somehow we got talking. We really didn't even get talking. They came over, him and Ray Johnson. I don't know if you've ever met Ray.
Yes.
They came over and they were just staring at my artwork, really not saying anything. And then finally they said, we'll be in touch, which was probably 2 years later. I had moved out to California by then. And that's when Bill invited me to Liverpool. He was like, would you like to come to Liverpool? Stupid question. Of course, it's the dream come true. So I went to Liverpool by myself. I wanted to go there and take it in by myself. I didn't want anybody with me. Met with Bill. Kind of forgot what he looked like until I saw him, of course. And then that's how long ago. It was crazy because, when somebody says to you from the Cavern Club, we'll call you, I say this story all the time. I kind of set up camp next to the phone. Like, So after 2 years later, when he finally did call me, it was great. Invited me to Liverpool, took me out there. And that's when he explained about the Hard Day's Night Hotel. And most people know, or maybe not, that the Hard Day's Night Hotel really had a hard time getting started between 9/11 happening and then putting the brakes on it and other things happening, finances being put in, being pulled back out. It was crazy. And
Yeah.
then it finally happened in 2006 when we all had put it to bed. And I
Right.
remember it was probably 2005, the end of 2005, when Bill called me and said, "You're not going to believe it. It's on." And I was like, "What's
Oh,
on?" Because it was, like I said, we had put it to bed, and Bill said, "Believe it or not, the hotel, we got a backer. It's going to happen." So February went over, signed the contract, and that's 20 years ago. February.
That's
You know what I
right.
mean? So that's the big celebration in Liverpool, is the book, the anniversary of the hotel.
Your
And then
birthday.
there's a bunch of other stuff as well. Like, we're unveiling the last painting that's going into the hotel. So all that work has finally come into fruition, where we're going to have this gala finally, black tie affair, February 6th, Hard Days Night Hotel. Kind of again, another dream come true that you would have never thought. Something, red carpet event, the whole thing. And it's being done by the Hard Days Night Hotel and Cavern City Tours. And it's just one of those things, pinch me. You know what I
It's
mean?
mind blowing. Yeah, no, absolutely. And when you think it's that week, a few days later, it will be 62 years since the Beatles landed at JFK.
Which
And
is another reason we're celebrating as well. So like I said, there's like a plethora of stuff. My birthday, Bill Heckle's birthday. It just all seemed to be perfect for February 6th. So
yeah. So tell us about the book. For people who haven't been to the Hard Days Night Hotel, give us an artist's eye view of, the floors, the rooms, the suites, the concept, and also talk about the logo, which I love.
Okay, well, the hotel, I'd say, for people that have never been there or not even heard of the Hard Days Night Hotel, which is really the only Beatles hotel approved by Apple, again back in 2006. They opened their doors in 2008. So the book itself, is the inside story, is it's actually, if you can't get to the hotel, it's like you open the book and you're in the hotel. Every painting that is in every room, which every room has a painting by myself. There's with paintings being pulled and redone and everything's probably, I would say, 140 paintings were done all together. And so it starts on the outside of the building. You have the 4 on each side granite pieces of the Beatles, and then there are the 8 pieces that you see when you get to the hotel. And then when you go in, it's just an onslaught of different this, that, and the other thing. But with the book, you can see every, you can read every story, which Bill Heckle has written the stories to, and you can see every painting that's in the hotel. Now, room 1 starts with the hotel logo, which we'll get back to in a second. And then it goes from room 2 is Ringo as a baby, John as a baby, Paul, and then George. And then from there, I'd say the most prominent or dominant, whatever you want to say, accolades in their life, which is almost impossible because you'd have to have a 100-story hotel to do all their amazing thing, to have a room for every little thing that the Beatles did.
Yeah.
So, but it does take you from a timeline. Now, it opened its doors in 2008. So the last room would be the Love Show, the Love Show room.
The Vegas.
And that's where it stops. So when you get, the book is over 200 pages of really important, just amazing, like I said, stories, which we all know the stories, but here you have a story that goes with each painting. Excuse me.
Wow.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
And so how did you decide when you first were commissioned to do this? I mean, it's a living gallery, and P.S. people stay the night and eat and drink there. Really, it's like staying in an art gallery, isn't it? How did you decide? I mean, where do you start with a project that size?
Well, that's where it goes back to Bill and I again, because first we had to get the accolades. And then the cool thing was, Bill kind of, as he was writing the stories and sending them to me, it gave me an idea to read. When I read the stories, I knew, okay, we're going to do this. And believe me, Bill probably wrote, 250 stories.
Wow.
And so many were cut down to fit into, the hotel. Like I said, deciding on which accolades were the best ones was a difficult situation, because even now we go, we should have did this and we should have done that. And, there's no Frida room, and there should have been a Frida room, that type of stuff. So it's, when it all is dead, done and said, it's like you could probably, again, you could go on forever trying to figure out, what were the dominant ones to use.
Yeah. And is the last room on the last floor the and in the end room?
Yeah. Well, that's kind of, that's the last room on the last floor is the love show. You know what I mean? Because it is historically done. So if you start with Ringo's birth, that's where it happened. Ringo was born first Beatles, and you take it to the love show. And of course, if it had been open in 2009 instead of 2008, who knows what would have been in the final room? You know what I mean?
The now and then bar on the roof.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, we could go forever and ever with these guys. They don't know when to quit, thank God.
Yeah, that's right. I saw something on Facebook yesterday about Giles Martin said he's sort of come to the end of the treasure box. He's at the bottom of the barrel. And one thing that always amazes me is that the Indian raga called Dehradun by George has never been released in any form. You can find it on YouTube, and I wasn't even aware of it until our Michelin star chef client, Chef Mayank Istwal from Musafir in Houston and New York. We went down there to seal the deal, doing their PR and their culinary media and stuff. And he said, oh, well, have you heard the song Dehradun? That was where I was born, in the foothills of the Himalayas. And I'm like, no. And he pulls it up on his phone. And, this is only 2 years ago. I'm 60 years old, and there's still a Beatles song I'd never heard of.
Oh, that's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. And so I was like, I put a comment under the Facebook post in the group saying, somebody tell Giles there's one more George Harrison song about this village in India, which is just outside Rishikesh, that probably most people haven't heard of.
I think you're right.
Yeah. Right. Just incredible. So the book is available now, correct?
The book is available at Hard Day's Night Hotel, ShannonGallery.com. And you can order it, pre-orders, and they're going so fast. I don't even know how many we have left. I know there was 1,000 to sell. The first run was 1,000. We haven't even talked about doing another run. Really had no idea it was going to sell this quickly, because it's a nice book. Like I said, it's large. I think it's 17 by 13, so it's a big book.
Wow.
200 and some pages. It's got some weight to it. So it will be out. It's, we're taking orders. It starts going out from England.
Okay.
I believe it's the last day of January.
Okay.
Oh.
And so it's coming soon. It's, and a lot of people keep saying, when's the book coming? They're very excited, and we're very happy about it. But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, but one thing you did ask me about was the logo.
Yeah, I wanted to get back to that.
The logo was, if you look at the logo, it's 12 boxes, right? Which represents the Hard Day's Night album, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And then the chord, a lot of people have heard about that. If you play that chord, because it's kind of like a guitar box, a chord box, that some people that play guitar know what I'm talking about. But it's not the G sus chord. I think it's the second one that John played, perhaps. So the chord, and when I was figuring it all out, it just kind of fell together, because the chord kind of almost represents how the Beatles set up on stage.
Yeah.
When they were playing live, of course. So, and that's basically, I remember I presented it to them, and they were like, They did not get it. And they were talking about non-Beatle people, I'll give
Yeah.
them much of a break. So
real
they,
estate and banker investor people.
right. Yeah.
Yeah,
The bean
I get
counters. So bean counters didn't get it. And so they presented to me what they would like me to do. And it was all kinds of flower power stuff. And we're like, Bill and I said to them, the flower power thing, there's so many segments of the Beatles, as we've discussed before. The flower power thing was, 67, you know what I mean? It was in and out. So many things happened. So it's like, you can't, so I got a call, I think a month after I presented the logo, and they finally went, you know what? We've had some lessons on exactly.
Right.
And it was kind of like spoon feeding them. And then it was a big congratulations. Your logo has been approved. You know what I mean?
Love it. So, because when you do branding and design for something like that, we did a small hotel in Whitehorse in Yukon, Canada. And they wanted the railroad and a horse and Alaska moose and mountains. And I was like, you do realize that this has to go on a little tiny name badge next to somebody's name, right?
Perhaps two colors.
You do, yeah. You do realize that people are going to want to go to the gift shop and they want it this big on a baseball hat or a golf cap. It's going to look like a train wreck. And that's what, like you say, a lot of these bean counters don't think about all of the iterations that something like this brand has to go on, right?
Exactly. And the trick is to incorporate everything into something so simple. And then my artwork. When somebody says to me, can you do something simple? That's the whole thing. It's like, what can't you do? Two things. I can't do something simple and I don't sleep. You know what I mean? That's it. Like those. So it's intricate. I love intricate. I love details. So, I had to really pull on the reins to simplify, because you have to put yourself in that box. Doing a logo, it's got to be simple. It's got to go on a hang tag on the back of a t-shirt. It's got to go on a button. It's got to go on letterhead, all that stuff. And I think a lot of people, the bean counters, don't think that way. They think, oh yeah, we're going to look at it and there's everything. Doesn't happen.
Yeah, flower power all over the place. Funny story, a friend of ours, Mike Maroney, who's a futurist and an author and an AI technologist or whatever, he'll be on in a couple of weeks with his new book about AI in the future. He had a client called Federal Express back in the day, and they were shortening it to FedEx. And they had been around agency after agency trying to get the new logo. And he and his buddy Wally were sitting in a meeting one day, and it was kind of the last ditch attempt. And they'd reached out to this little agency, to Mike's agency. And Wally just started scribbling on a piece of paper, and he started with an arrow, a big, chunky, thick arrow. And then he drew the letter E and the letter X and then the letter EF. And so if you look now at the FedEx logo, there's a big chunky white arrow in the negative space. And that was finally what did it for FedEx, was like, oh, that's so simple. It's an arrow moving forward.
There's three colors, right?
Yeah,
purple,
exactly.
Orange and white, or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's hard. The simpler things are, to me, the harder they become, because it's what you have to strip away whilst leaving the message of the brand and the art behind, isn't it?
Yeah, that's where the magic, the brain magic comes in, and you have to kind of put down all the tools and simplify everything. But that's the trickery of the whole thing, is to be able to do that and be able to present it to people and go, it's almost everything you've asked for is there. It just, you have to look for it sometimes.
Yeah. You have to read between the lines. So tell us
about the movie and Simon Weitzman.
Oh, the movie's been a lot of fun. Like when I got the call to, it's like your introduction that you gave me. You know me. I'm a simple. It's almost embarrassing to me when somebody is like, on the other phone, they're like, "Well, we want to do a movie about you," and I'm like, it's either my friends pulling my leg or it's one of those, are you sure you have the right person?
You're checking the calendar to make sure it's not April 1st. Right?
Yeah. You do that first. Anyway, I got the call from from the company, and it was from Doug, actually, and he was so kind and so serious about doing this movie, and it was type of thing. It was kind of like, if we don't do it, somebody else is going to pull the trigger and do it. So we want to do it, and
Yeah. Have
so
control.
yeah. And then I found out Simon was involved, which I have already known Simon, which was great. And Simon's, we're very, very dear friends. And by the time the movie rolled around, we had become such close friends. And, when you're doing something, a documentary like I'm doing with Simon, and you're already friends like we are, it makes it easier to do what we're doing right now. It's like,
Absolutely.
the fences come down, and you're able to really, get involved with whatever the project needs, or the podcast. Or
Be intimate in the.
Well, and what I love about Simon too is that he's super amazingly, incredibly artistically gifted and talented, but he's so self-effacing that he's the first to sort of accept someone else's idea, or to take the piss out of himself and say, oh, well, yeah, that sounds like a better way to do it. He's not one of these directors that you can't approach and say, hey, what about if he's a true collaborator. I love him. He's made of gold.
He's awesome. I met with our first day of shooting. He had the most raw throat. He had come down with something. And so there was a lot of, question and, Q&A type of thing between us.
Right.
And there was so many times where we had to stop filming because I was laughing so hard, because when he was talking, it was just kind of
bless him.
Yeah. And there was a few times where we just couldn't, it couldn't be, you couldn't
make it work.
Understand the question, so there would be no reason to have an answer. So it was a lot of laughing over that, and a lot of it broke the barrier to have fun with it. And
And he sounds like a dirty phone call.
Yeah.
What are you wearing? One of those. What are you wearing?
What he needed is Rockstar Rescue from Mrs. McCartney's Tea. It's our rock and roll version of throat coat.
He might have some. I don't know, but he was trying to soothe his throat as much as he could until we got to the cavern. And of course, when you get to the cavern, you have to.
It's another world.
Another world. Yeah, exactly.
It's a whole nother world.
So it was nice. And it's, all the interviews in there with other people, Julia Baird and Rogue, of course. I had a lot of fun with Rogue.
Oh, he's a hoot.
Rogue and I go so far back, going back to the Hard Day's Night thing. When the Hard Day's Night Hotel was first going to happen, Rogue and I were, because I was moving there to paint. It wasn't going to be do the paintings and ship them over. They wanted me to literally paint on the murals on the wall. And the first time it was turned down, and I was going to stay, I think I was going to stay down by the docks. It was so long ago. At the time, I think the Spice Girls were living there. They were a hot thing back then, and they were living down in that area. And so I was going to move there and paint every day, paint at the hotel itself.
Wow.
And for good fun on the side, Rogue and I were going to put a band together.
Uh-huh.
Oh, gosh.
And so that was kind of like a cool thing that we were going to do at the beginning. And then, of course, because of the push and pull with the hotel, the band thing never happened, which I'm kind of, I would have liked to had some fun.
It's never too late. Exactly.
You're right. It is never too late. One never knows. He's such a good guy. I love Rogue. He's always been a lot of fun.
Yeah. And what he and Pete have managed to put together, the collection for the museum, which is right across from the cavern, is just stunning, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's amazing. Happy birthday to his mom, right? His mom?
2 days ago, yeah. Absolutely. That's right.
So,
our friend Carlos is asking, what was the final outcome on any storm damage on that huge guitar that you did for the Illinois Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Oh, the Gigantar.
Gigantar.
I think
I
I
love that
think
name.
they did. I think they took it down, and from what I understand, it survived. It was one of the only things on the street that survived. But it was built for that. I mean, that the whole idea was to build that guitar so it could, it could stand, could withstand as much as possible. And I guess that was as much as anyone could ask for.
Yeah.
Me and disasters that follow my life.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is one of those things that it survived fine. I think they took it down just to because I think it was taken down because the building was damaged, and in
Right.
order to fix the building, the guitar had to come off.
Oh my God. So Gigantor survives and the building gets screwed.
Right. So
Oh,
I think I did a small painting of an angel hanging on to the guitar,
Yeah.
that's how I kind of felt when it all happened, because I heard
Yeah.
about it, and as you know, it's like I was like, no, not again.
Not again. Not again. Are you even in a headspace where you can talk about Maui and the fire, or do you just want to gloss over that?
No, I can. You know what? I don't think I've ever been in a headspace where I can't talk about it, because I've put myself in a headspace that my gallery is still there. I just
Okay.
haven't been there to visit it in 2 years.
Right.
That's
So
my
for those of you who don't know, when Front Street in Maui went up, a lot of the, incredible life's work, everything Shannon does is incredible, but there were a certain grouping of paintings that just were sent to the skies. Let's just it makes me cry, and they're not even my paintings.
Well,
It's awful.
You must remember when I was working on the Beatles to Beale Street for the Matthew Street unveiling, and it was one of those times. Well, you guys know me, and if there's a project being done and I'm in it, I'll be at it for 3
Head
days,
down.
sleep. And I remember you called me and said, Shannon, and it was like, Ruthie, what's going on, and you're like, where are you? I think is how you started. I was like, and I'm doing this, and then you're like, you told me about what was going on with Maui, which I didn't even know. I wouldn't have known if it wasn't for you telling me.
I'm sorry to be the one.
And then I called Bill right away, Bill Weiland, who owned the gallery, and he really didn't know what was going on at the time. He was literally on the phone out front, where Bill always was out front of his gallery on the phone, one of those guys. And he said at first it looked like somebody took an old barbecue grill and just threw it, and all the all the little sparklies coming down the road. And then he said, and then it started raining fire. And his big thing was to make a decision. Does he take his Mustang or does he take his Harley? Thank God he took the Harley, because he was able to go down the sidewalk to leave.
Without the traffic jam.
No,
he'd have been stuck. Yep.
mm-hmm.
And it's a sad thing, but we've been going through the insurance companies now. I've been working with them for 2 years, and it looks like they're going to come up with some kind of answer. So I don't know what. I can't even say.
No time like the present Mr. Insurance Company man. Jesus, 2 years.
2 years, and they said if you do get any compensation, it will probably be like a monthly thing, like you would get Social Security or something like that.
What?
So,
and P.S. it'll be taxable.
Yeah, well, of course that and of course the attorneys that I'm working with, who are working with everyone, basically are
like a class action.
Not as bad as you would think. They are taking a cut, of course, but that's what they do, and I understood that going in, because they keep talking to me about, we're going to try and get you this much money, and I think what people don't understand is as we've talked before, paintings, you go see the Mona Lisa because it's still surviving. It's there.
Right.
It's carried the history all those years.
Yeah.
And what a lot of people have said to me is like, I don't get it, Shannon. Why don't you just paint them over again? You did it once, you can do it again. And I try to explain, look, there's a time and a place when all my historical work was there. So if I was doing something for Spielberg, you can't go back in time and capture how I felt.
No.
And I don't paint the same anymore. You know what I mean? To go back in time and try and that's like,
Sure.
Let's use the Beatles, for example. You can't, while they're doing Abbey Road, you can't ask them to go back and, hey, can you re-record A Hard Day's Night? It's never going to sound the same. It's just, you move forward, things change, So the biggest loss in this was never about the money. It was about the experience of the paintings living way beyond my life.
Yeah.
And with the fire, that ended, right? That's where the history ended. It was over with, and it doesn't move forward from there. So that's the part, even if I sold the paintings, they would have been, again, it's not about the money. It's just the fact that, okay, yeah, the money's great, but it would have lived with somebody else and carried on and made its own history going through the realms of who would have owned it. So
right, it's legacy. It's like your children, right? I mean, it's your legacy.
I mean, any artist that is working on a platform where they can literally do stuff that has historical value to it,
right?
They would feel that way. I've got many paintings that I could have said, the whole thing was with Bill. Bill said, you know what, I want you at my gallery.
Yeah.
But I have to have the originals. And it was really a tug of war with myself on that one because all my originals had been wrapped up. The ones that really meant something historically, as we're talking, were in tubes and put away in a safe place in my home, in my personal collection, because I knew that these are the ones that mattered. So out of the tube, they came and, out, shipped to Hawaii. And I had just been there 2 months before, and bought probably 8 new pieces.
Oh, Jesus.
So that I finally started feeling comfortable with the place. And, again, there was a lot of loss in Maui. So I that's the other thing. It's so hard to cry about paintings when lives, home.
Yes, I get it. But you have, we're all sensitive people. I see both sides of that coin. Yes, lives were lost, and that is the ultimate tragedy, and that those are not replaceable either. But not to take away from, the legacy. It's a year ago tomorrow since the Palisades and the Eaton fire broke out.
Right.
And I know 15 people who, lost absolutely everything. And the things that they're most upset about are like an old Bill Graham signed event poster from a Fleetwood Mac concert in 1972. The thing itself wasn't worth anything, but the memory of getting Bill Graham and the band to sign it and being there on that night and having it for it's the memory and the emotion that goes up in flames. And that's what's the hard part to deal with. Elizabeth's just saying it's the emotional loss, not the monetary loss.
Yeah.
Right. There's all kinds of categories of loss. And
that's right.
How do you file that? Everybody is going to feel their own pain in whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, no. Oh, Elizabeth's saying your art is life, Shannon. I agree with her.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's really sweet. So rewinding all the way back to how this incredible journey of yours got started.
Yeah. Do you remember the very first time you saw the Beatles, and did you realize at that moment they'd become your life's artistic focus?
It's, what, a lot of people might go, oh, I don't, it's one of those things where I absolutely remember there was 2 songs. I Want to Hold Your Hand and it happened in the same place. We would frequent my Aunt June's summer home. It was a summer home at one time, but it had become her permanent home. But we would go always in the summertime. We'd visit my Aunt June, and it just happened to be. I guess it had to be just breaking, maybe March. Breaking the warmer weather started coming in New Jersey. This was Ocean Gate, New Jersey. And we were out front playing like kids do. And somebody had one of those remember they were so popular at that specific time, the transistor radios.
Yeah, with the pull-out aerial.
Yeah, and I'm not sure about the little pull-out, but I know it was the tiny ones, the 9-volt. And so we were listening to it, and it was all white noise until I Want to Hold Your Hand came on.
Wow.
And then it was like we all started singing to it. And what was I at the time? 6? Maybe 6 years old, I think I was. Wow. So it just was it was fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So fast forward to the summertime. And it's funny because getting back to the transistor radio, when that song got done playing, it went back to white noise again. You know what I mean? Like no other song mattered. That song kind of specifically got us all. Yeah. We went back to white noise and playing and doing our own thing. So fast forward the summertime, back at my Aunt June's, and there's me and my cousins. We're running through an old house because it's a summer home. Back then they had the heater grate right in the middle of the house.
Yeah,
heat would come up from the middle. From the big metal grate.
Yeah.
So if you walk down the hallway, you couldn't walk. Somebody always said to you, "Don't walk down the hallway in your bare feet," because that's what the heating grate was. But in the summertime, for kids that are running from the front door to the back door, they make a great noise when you jump on them as you're running through the house. So you got 7 kids running around through back door, front door, running through the hallway, hitting this heater grate, and on. We were just having the day of our, it was one of those fun summer days. And my Aunt June had a hi-fi like many people had, the console set up.
Yeah.
Walnut, that whole thing. It was the other sign of the times back then. But she had a plethora of albums. She really had a good collection. And Meet the Beatles dropped. And when I was running through, I probably would say that the 7th time, I was last because I was the oldest. As I'm running through the hallway, I hear All My Loving. And I literally stopped. And I just that was the moment for me. So you figure at that point, I'm still 6 and a half years old. And of course, my aunt and my mom were like, "Where'd Shannon go?" All the other kids were going, but it was kind of like, I know it sounds surreal when I say it, but it was almost like when the other kids kept going, that was when I lost my youth. My youth went with them. I went over to the Beatles and got lost in that song and then the album. And my Aunt June was the one that came from the kitchen to find out where I was. And she saw me just standing there listening to the hi-fi, knew exactly what to do. She went and got me a stack of paper and a pencil because they all knew that this is what I wanted to do. And that was it. I laid down she gave me the album and I laid down on the floor with my pencil and my album and I just started drawing Meet the Beatles. And that's my introduction to the faces of those guys. And then as the summers went on, we had 16 magazine that I would draw from, those darn bubblegum cards with that gross gum, to have a wad in my mouth about this big. And, having the bubblegum cards, and it was so frightening to my parents because they were like, what is going on with our kid? Because it wasn't happening to the other 3. My siblings, even though they were a lot younger, it was not happening with them. And it wasn't happening to any other kids. It got to the point where, that's when I first started putting the pictures from the 16 magazine on the wall. And
Oh, wow.
they were like, I believe this probably was an epidemic with all Beatlemaniac parents, that they just didn't know what to do.
How to do it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so your bedroom literally was the first Shannon gallery, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was. I mean, I remember always having a desk. I had my first desk was right up against my bed, and it was so old that it had the little hole in it for the inkwell, and it was a lift up, and it was from an old school. You know what I mean? So I'd have all my papers and pencils and pastels and all that stuff, and that's what I loved to do. And then when I got older, I got another hand-me-down desk that was bigger. So I always had, my little art area to do what I had to do on.
Oh,
That's why when you see the pictures of Mendips of John Lennon's bedroom, you think about that little tiny desk he had in the stained glass window in the front there. And, what poems or lyrics were written at that desk that we'll probably never know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It was his safe space, wasn't it, after his mum died? So many people in the comments are talking about their transistors. I had a green one. I had a yellow one. I had a peppermint one. It's so cute. Everybody had a transistor radio. I guess it was the iPhone of the day, wasn't it? That's where you got your music news.
It absolutely was. Even the Beatles, they got them for gifts when they got to America. They were all, I think theirs had Gypsy on it or something. It was
wow.
Yeah, they were awesome stuff.
Charlie's saying he's from Florida. His greatest memory was being in the third row in Washington, D.C. on February the 11th, 1964. Can you imagine?
Who can top that memory? You can't top that. That's amazing.
Our friend Paul from down here in Playa del Rey, his transistor was black and silver. Isn't it amazing? We all had them. I mean, I absolutely, the iPhone of the day is exactly right. Yeah, thank you, Joanne. That is absolutely true. Barbara's saying, thank goodness you found art and that art found you. Could you, because art is at the center of what you do, but you're a guitar player and you're a logo designer and you're a brand designer and you're a painter and you're a musician and a luthier. Could you imagine doing anything else with your life? Is there anything you wanted to do, like be a marine biologist or an astronaut or
chef?
Or a chef?
I think like every kid in the world, there's some fantasy things that you wanted to do. But art, the cool thing about art was people were like, you want to be an artist when you grow up. And I believe it was my dad who he got very offensive with that. And he would say, she is an artist. She's not going to be an artist.
Oh, that's great.
Is an artist, and which was always a cool thing. But we talk, a lot of people are always like, well, you did all this artwork, how did you have time for music? And I think it comes back to Beatles. I mean, it's a fantasy, going, oh, I'd love to be a musician, that type of thing. And I won my first blue ribbon in 8th grade, which was really for copper tooling, which I had never done before. And there's a place in Philadelphia. Yeah, copper tooling is you basically take a piece of flat copper and you hammer it out and do whatever. And then when you're done, you fill it with wax on the, so it can't be pressed. And then you put like a stain over it to make it, look older, sand it, clear coat it, that whole thing. So it was of the little drummer boy of all things, being from the Catholic, so it was the baby Jesus in the manger and a little drummer boy standing over him.
Oh, my Lord.
Talk about detail. Like, what do you want to do for your first copper tooling? That was the thing that I came
baby
up
Jesus.
So
That's funny.
we're at John Wanamaker's in Philly, and suddenly we come back after all the stuff is displayed. And I was so naive. I was kind of upset because there was a big gob of tape on my copper tooling.
Is that Is that a technical term? A big gob of tape?
Yes, it is. I'm claiming it. So there's this big hunk glob, whatever you want to call it, of clear tape, but it's holding the blue ribbon. And I'm kind of really annoyed more about the tape being, because I'm like I said, I'm very naive. So, but that was my first introduction to getting a little bit of confidence. And my art teacher, Mrs. Marshall, or Miss Marshall, was really nice, such a nice lady. And she was so helpful. I had her for 7th grade and 8th grade, which is called junior high in the States. And she was amazing. And then 9th grade came along, and I ended up getting another art teacher, which I don't even mention her name. And that was because that blue ribbon got me 2 scholarships that were all I had to do was get through the next 4 years and with a D, but I had to, I had to pass, you have to pass art, and she failed me. And I had 1 F, and I lost my scholarship. So I quit school, everything. I was done. I didn't even tell my parents I quit. I was that rebellious. I was like, I'm out. And now all I want to do is race motocross. And I became this crazy, rebellious motocross chick.
Wow.
And so a friend of mine in high school just came up to me and he was like, hey, what happened was I ended up going back. The big part is I did go back to school. So my motocross accident, I had a bad motocross accident, ended up in the hospital. In the hospital, I decided, you know what? I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to get my, I want to get my piece of paper that says I did do it. And I'm doing it for myself. So I went back, made a deal with the school, like a business deal with them. I'm going to do this many classes, and I'll be there every day. I'll get it done. I just want my diploma. So when I went back to school after the motocross accident, I had a friend of mine that came up to me and said, would you like to play guitar for my band? And I was like, again, it's like you're looking around going, you talking to me? I don't know anything. I don't know the difference between a bass guitar and a regular guitar. I just know I'd love to be in a band. So I was like, sure. Now you got to keep in mind, I was one of the only kids around that had a really nice off the house garage. So I really wasn't going to be playing guitar. I was kind of being used
for the rehearsal space.
So here these guys are over there rehearsing, and they gave me this piece of garbage, copy of a Telecaster with 1 string on it. And they were like, well, when you run the string, we'll give you another one. So I was like, okay, what do I know? So what ended up happening was I ended up going out and getting a real guitar. And I learned how to play bass guitar on my own by starting with Meet the Beatles and ending with Abbey Road.
And that's what Nancy Lee Andrews is on from Nashville. Hi, Nancy Lee.
Nancy, she's so awesome. I love awesome.
Fabulous. She's saying, did you take up the bass because of Paul?
It was exactly because, I mean, that was the whole thing. They wanted me to play guitar, but the whole McCartney thing was like, at that time, I was such a Wings fan, and it was like, because we're talking 1976.
Oh,
okay.
So I'm like, so that's what I started doing, learning. I learned the Beatles, and then I went on to the Wings stuff. So it was like, actually taught me this stuff. Yeah. By the way, again, Nancy's such a nice person. I missed her so much. She's really good lady. But she knows the story because we've talked about it. And then what ended up happening was I ended up telling these guys that were basically using the garage for their own. I was like, you're out. I'm starting my own band. And it was only a couple of years later that I put my own band together, and we started writing original stuff and doing what we had to do. So that's how the music came into my life. It was because my art teacher, basically, because she failed me. When you're young, I think back about it today. All I was thinking was, you know what? I'm done. I don't want anything to do with art. And that was
Yep.
a bad thing that she did to me.
That's
And,
terrible.
taking a left turn, going through the motocross thing and then thinking about what you'd like to do in life because of a bad accident, and then becoming a musician and taking, and that was for a long time. I didn't touch art at all. And then somebody
Wow.
gave me an airbrush and they were like, you used to be an artist. And I was like, yeah, I used to, but we'll try this airbrush. I think you'll love it. And I had it for like a year, never even touched it. And then finally somebody who I knew that had, a motorcycle said, I'd love you. I'll pay you to do some airbrushing. And I'm like, I have one, but I don't know how to use it. And,
well, but that's what Joanne Grubbs just said. You had a garage and you didn't know how to use a guitar, but you learned to play because you had a garage.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how the doors kind of, slam you in the butt into another door and so on and so on. But it's, I think what happens with me is, it's like I've painted my own cars. I've done that kind of thing. And that's what kind of, I became a sign painter from that. And then the airbrushing. And then, before I knew it, I was back involved with serious. I mean, the first painting I did, the first serious airbrush painting I ever did was of John Lennon, of course. It was like, if I'm going to do one. And that's the one that won first place at the Lapita Fest, as we call it, Mark Lapita's show. And Mark asked me to come back. I came back the next year. And then Charles saw me, he asked me to come to his show. So when you look at the avenues and the roads that took me to where they're very intricate. Yeah. But
it's kind of a red thread. I look at life. Sometimes we'll sit here at dinner and say, so-and-so's just popped back into our life. How did we meet them? And then we trace it back like an FBI board with pins and well, so-and-so introduced me to such and such. And I almost said no to that because if I hadn't gone, I wouldn't have met such and such. And then, you honestly, I just believe as long as you're making moral decisions, you just kind of have to let the universe take you down the road it wants you to go on. Right?
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, most of the time, it has put me on good avenues.
There will be disaster. Nothing is all good forever. There will be disasters and there'll be bad things.
That's what makes good. That's what makes good things. Yeah, that's what makes good things what they are. How would we know the difference between a good and a bad thing if you didn't have the bad things to basically judge them upon? But it's, it's. I think, you hit the nail on the head when you say, you like meeting Neil Aspinall and asking him, getting permission to paint the Beatles, but also him saying, keep them in a good light. And here's the rule book, and following that rule book. I could have went off the grain at any time. I could have put them in a bad light, a tabloid kind of light, and made a plethora of money right then and there on the spot from what I knew from people. But I wouldn't do that. You know what I mean? And so keeping things in a good light or being in a positive thing, I think you're right. I think that through that you're talking about is an easier traveled road in that kind of light.
Nancy Lee's saying we each have our own unique yellow brick road. Yeah, yellow. See, you got the memo, Nancy. I see. It's the yellow brick road. And different roads lead us in the best directions. Charlie was a dear friend of Louise Harrison's and took care of her until the end. He only met Louise because of the work he did with United Way. So who would have thought that you'd meet a Beatles sister, working and volunteering with United Way? But if something's supposed to happen in your life, if you just can find stillness and calm and just let it in, let abundance in, let health in, let relationships in, just, don't shut the door on everything. Just be open. It'll find you. I know it sounds like an old hippie, but I am. And she's an even older hippie at 96.
Yeah. So,
That's wonderful. So when are you off to England? What, you're over there? Obviously, the big date on the 6th.
They have. I need to be there the 3rd, I believe it is. Their podcast. They have I think they're starting the Hard Day's Night Hotel podcast type of thing. So I got to be over there on the 3rd. I'm leaving on the 1st, which of course gives, it'll put me there on the 2nd.
Yep. Right.
And then I'll stay like I usually do for a week. I might this time be able to go out in the city, and because I have nothing planned. So
Okay. Well, I will give you some restaurant recommendations. There's an incredible chef called Paul Askew. He was trained under Gordon Ramsay at Claridge's, and then once he got his own notoriety, he went back to Liverpool and has literally made it into an incredible food scene.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, the art school is amazing. There are some fabulous wine and
There's the word art again.
There's the word art. His restaurant is called the
School.
Art School, so you must dine there.
I have to.
I will introduce you. Absolutely.
Mm.
So thank you so much for taking the time. Remind people where they can find you, your website, which is scrolling across the bottom if you're watching a replay.
Very simple, www.artistshannon.com. I can see it ticking across there. I don't know if anybody, I'm sure everybody else.
Oh yeah. No, it's on the ticker. Thank you so much for taking, I know how busy you are at the moment, but thank you so much for coming back on. Best of luck with the book, which is the artistshannon.com is where you can pre-order. Right now, there are only 1,000 copies, so rush, rush, rush. Ashley's saying, give our love to Jean from me, Jean Catherall.
Of course. I spoke to Jean this morning.
There we go. And so, as you will know from last time, the Limerick lady here, the author of Mrs. McCartney's Liverpool Limericks and other random Irish haikus, which with March coming up, if you're looking for a fabulous Irish-related gift, she's got a book out too. And also Shannon was gracious enough to let us use her fabulous painting for the cover of There Are Faces I Remember, which is still available at goldenagemusiccollectables.com. There are, I think, maybe 20 or 30 of those left, and then they're done. So thank you so much. And if you are sitting comfortably, we shall read you your limerick.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
I'll let Madam count it in.
1, 2, 3.
There once was an artist who drew every beetle from Ringo to Stew. She paints mop-tops and dreams and old Liverpool scenes. We're so glad she's part of our crew.
Ta-da!
Oh, that's awesome. And with that, I'm going to go have some Angie McCartney tea.
Excellent.
That's a
Thank
good
you
girl.
very much.
Yay. So, ladies, it's so good to see you always.
You too, Shannon.
You
God
too.
bless. Bye-bye.
Get your butt on a plane westbound. We need time in
Yeah.
I
face.
got to come see you. I promise I'm going to do that very soon.
Okay.
That's fabulous. Thank you, kids. We'll tune in next week and we will do it all over again. Keep your kettles boiling. Lots of
Bye-bye.
love. Ciao, ciao.
Bye, everybody.